Hey everyone, Beth Barany here with How to Write the Future podcast. Science fiction and fantasy can change the world. I want your help. I really believe that science fiction and fantasy can change the world, and that's one of my motivations for this podcast. So in this episode, I'm going to present to you 8 different topics that could be whole episodes. And I'm going to ask some questions, and I would love to hear from you. Which of these 8 are you wanting me to do an episode on? So I'm going to state what the 8 are. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about each one, and then I'll restate them at the end. And you'll have a link in the show notes or wherever you're listening to this podcast that will take you to a poll. So you can tell me, what would you love a deep dive in? Okay, here are the topics I'm going to cover briefly in today's episode. Writing speculative fiction for social change, world building in climate fiction, AI and robot characters in fiction, Afrofuturism and cultural narratives, space opera and interstellar societies, near future technology in fiction, time travel narratives, and lastly, biotech and future medicine. Now, that is 8 topics. All right, here we go. So first off, writing speculative fiction for social change. Science fiction is great for exploring real-world policies and social movements. We can really do some great explorations with science fiction and fantasy as well. So speculative fiction includes science fiction and fantasy and all the variations. So how can these science fiction and fantasy narratives effectively influence policymakers and social movements? That could be something I could explore. We can also talk about what real-world examples have we seen of science fiction inspiring actual technological or social change. I could say Star Trek is a great example of that. All right, next topic, which is world building in climate fiction. This is all about how do we build believable worlds affected by climate change. And that might show up in science fiction, fantasy, all kinds of speculative fiction. So how do you balance scientific accuracy, if that's important to you, with storytelling when you depict climate-affected futures? Another question that we could explore is what unique challenges do characters face in climate-changed environments? My example for this is Dune. Dune is a culture that's highly adapted to a low-water, high-desert environment. So we could explore that. Let me know if you want me to explore that one. Next, AI and robot characters in fiction. We could explore that more. How do we write compelling narratives with AI characters? And so something to explore would be what makes an AI character feel authentic rather than just a human with mechanical parts. And another question is, how do you explore the ethical implications of AI consciousness in fiction? And a great book recommendation that I have, and one that does explore these beautifully, is the book called Activation Degradation by Marina J. Lostetter. She did the Murderbot series. This is a standalone novel. I thought it was really good. Activation Degradation by Marina J. Lostetter. Next, we could explore Afrofuturism and cultural narratives. And this is bringing cultural heritage, for example, from a region in Africa or from some other part of the world, and bring it into futuristic narratives. So the questions to explore here would be, how can writers respectfully incorporate cultural elements into future narratives? And also, what role does cultural heritage play in shaping future societies? And a great example of this is all the work of Nnedi Okorafor. I just love her Binti series, and I know this is a very juicy topic. So let me know if you want me to explore this one in greater depth. I can also probably find people to interview for this topic very easily, as well as the others. Another topic we could explore together, space opera and interstellar societies. How do we build stories, complex narratives of spacefaring civilizations? And so as a writer, we ask, how do you create believable social structures for spacefaring civilizations? And also, what are some unique challenges that arise when you are governing multi-planetary populations? One of my favorite examples of this is the science fiction series by Elizabeth Moon, which I'm going to talk about in the next episode. And I have a stack of books right here. I'm going to be recording that soon. Jim Hines has a great series called Janitors, the Post-Apocalypse. He's got a 3-book series. I just adore it. He does a great job. This whole space seafaring civilizations. Really fun. All right, next topic we can dive deeper into: near future technology in fiction. How do we write about emerging technologies realistically? And a question we can discuss: how do you research emerging technologies to make near future scenarios plausible? Also, what's that sweet spot between current technology and future speculation? And I would say I live in this space with my Janey McCallister Space Station Mystery Series. I think a lot about the sweet spot between current technology and future speculation. And I have a lot to say about this. And I might have already said it in some past episodes. So that is definitely something I have a lot to say on. Next, time travel narratives. Managing the paradoxes and creating consistent time travel rules. So a question you might ask as a writer is, how do you maintain internal consistency in your time travel rules? What are some creative ways to handle temporal paradoxes? So I have a great example of this, and it's the Beryl Blue series by Janet Ray Stevens, a friend of mine. And I just adore her time travel series. It's very fun and funny and has rules around time travel. I really adore it. That's one example. So let me know if you want me to discuss more about time travel narratives. And then this is the last one I'm going to talk about today, which is biotech and future medicine. This is stories that are writing about medical advances and their implications. So how might advanced medical technology change human society? And what ethical dilemmas arise with biotech advancement? So let me know if you want me to discuss that one. And I want to bring up Elizabeth Moon again because she has life extension as a thing in her science fiction. She discusses the implications of that. It has socio-political implications if people are living longer, and that has impact and pressure on her characters and her stories. It's really interesting. All right, so those are my 8 topics, and vote for the one that you want me to dive deeper into. All right, and I'm going to repeat them for you. Writing speculative fiction for social change, world building in climate fiction, AI and robot characters in fiction, Afrofuturism and cultural narratives, space opera and interstellar societies, near future technology in fiction, time travel narratives, and lastly, biotech and future medicine in narrative. All right, that's it for this week, everyone. Just want to quickly remind you, I have a world-building workbook for fiction writers. If you want support and guidance and brainstorm tools around your world building, I highly recommend you check out my world-building workbook for fiction writers, and that will help you get going. And last but not least, stay tuned till next week's episode. I'm going to talk about Elizabeth Moon, one of my favorite science fiction and fantasy writers. All right. Write long and prosper.